Welcome to Sounds, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of music, film, and culture, bringing you conversations with some of the most innovative artists and creators of our time. I'm Tom Needham, and today we have a truly special guest, Logan Richardson. Logan is an acclaimed saxophonist, composer, and bandleader. Hailing from Kansas City, he has carved out a unique space in jazz, blending blues, hip hop, and avant garde influences into a sound that's entirely his own. From sharing the stage with jazz legends to headlining sold out shows at the Blue Note, Village Vanguard, and the Kennedy Center, Logan has established himself as a leading voice in contemporary jazz. His upcoming performance at Town Hall on March 29th is set to be a landmark event as he joins forces with the legendary composer Yoko Kanno for her first ever live performance in New York City. This extraordinary concert will feature Logan Richardson's Blues People Big Bang, the Little Kruta String Ensemble, and vocalists Steve Conte and Scott Matthew performing music from the iconic Cowboy Bebop soundtrack and more. Today, we're going to be talking with Logan about his journey, his genre-crossing approach to music, and everything else. Logan, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's really a great pleasure to be here, Tom. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're a special artist, and this is going to be an incredible event. How did you first get involved in this event at Town Hall?
Well, initially, a couple of years ago, I was introduced by Simon Couillard, who is the lead agent for my studio, my agency, and he introduced me to Mile Araya, who's the curator for Town Hall. And we've been talking for about a year and a half. I was still living over in Europe a little bit at that time. And we had spoken about Yoko like even months and months before, and then eventually it led up to this past August of 24. Mile came and said, "Hey, I have this great show. Yoko wants to come to New York and do this show. However, she's not going to bring her band, the Seatbelts. That's her regular band that she plays with, and she wanted to do something with you. She was like, I'll show Yoko your profile and your music and everything, and she loved it and really wants to write. For me, I was overwhelmed, with Yoko
Mhm.
being the great sensei that she is, and fortunately, coming from Kansas City, Missouri, and coming up with a lot of elders that were 40 years older than me, easily, and coming up under this particular type of tutelage, I always seek this out, and fortunately in this particular situation it feels as if it seeked me out a little bit. So I am in full um um admiration, and it's very much an honor to be able to present Yoko San's music, and it's really great. It's really great.
It really seems like you are the perfect person to do this. How are the two of you similar in terms of the way that you work with music?
Well, it's interesting because with Yoko, she has a great way of being able to write the music to where it explains itself, and then her in her way of explaining the music even deeper inside of that, it really then really opens up the whole space. And she does it so much with her body and her smile, and obviously her actual direct diction of what it is that she wants or what she's looking for. And it's interesting because she's specific yet is totally free. And I think the specific nature for me, at least in us working together thus far, has seemed to be, like any great leader, they want to be directly sure that you are in the deepest state of the knowing about the template that is there. Once the template has been established and it's clear that you are there, then you can completely be off the map. And I think that in this particular form, I feel very similar. I work with artists. Um, I choose the artists that I work with very specifically, almost in a way to where I don't really have to say anything. I'm hiring them and working with them and collaborating because I would like to have their interpretation of what it is that I've put down. And I believe it's very much the same way. We have slightly different ways of working, but I think the end result is essentially the same thing. To where we just want the music ingested so that the artists themselves can be free to be able to navigate and create what it is that they desire.
And why was Blues People Big Bang perfect for this assignment?
Well, with this being the broader body of a five-piece group, which that's where the inception of the origin of Blues People began, and with the Big Bang coming from me, coming from a big band heavy town, Count Basie and many others, I always wanted to be able to work this idea of a big band. I played many big bands my whole life, but to be able to really see it realized from the scope of the core of the origin of where the sonics came from, that means everything to me. And so Blues People at its core really is all origin in influence of the name, going back to Amiri Baraka's book, Blues People. But also after reading this book, I literally just had to find a way to make music with what that meant. And then we, as Blues People, this is something that is it's almost like a cuckoo call that's put out to where everything could be spoon fed in the sense of explaining what that cuckoo is, but then that also defeats the purpose of that in itself. So I think it's kind of a part of the ride of that, whether you're in the musician seat of presenting the creation or capturing the message, or in the side of the folks that are observing that. But I believe that the band was a great fit in particular because honestly, for me, it's a great pleasure to work with some of the greatest artists that I've had a chance to know and meet literally throughout my entire career. And I lived in New York from 2001 to 2011. So in that period of time, I had a great opportunity to have a many moments to play in various situations with a lot of folks, and that still can continue throughout the years. And so with that, it's seldom that you get an opportunity to be able to have a band big enough to be able to put all these folks in there. And so it finally came, and what a great honor, because getting to tackle this in particular, tackling another, because I'm a deep composer, so tackling coming in with a sensei of a composer, it's overwhelming. I mean, obviously, I hope that's heard in my response, because I can't even really get an actual conjugated sentence out. But I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to play with all of the great artists that are in the band. And I feel like this is really a great send off in terms of like where the tradition of the big band and how that can move and how that can continue to grow. I mean, I know there's several big bands around, but just meaning to be an additive to the motion of that.
One of the things I love about soundtrack music, particularly good soundtrack music like Yoko's, is the ability that composers have to go into all different kinds of styles of music and to, touch all kinds of emotions. And this music that you're going to be performing, I mean, you have a band, you have strings, you have vocalists. It's very, very ambitious. What was it like to rehearse for something like this?
Well, it was interesting because I was thinking of that almost when you referenced, the similarities between Yoko and I. And when we were working together, I just realized that it's just, I would say that it's thorough, for sure. However, there's no stress. So we're essentially just making sure that we are delivering the message of the composition at the highest level possible to meet the standards of how Yoko sees the composition living. And that really is if there's a pressure, that's the pressure. But I feel like that's a similar pressure with any artist that you're working with, just wanting to make sure that you're really in true support of delivering that compositional message.
Cowboy Bebop was very popular. So I'm sure some people are going to be coming out to this show just because they're so familiar with Cowboy Bebop and they love the music to it. How important is it to recreate that sound, but also how important is it for you to put your own little twist on it as well?
Well, I think through the years I've had a chance to work with several bands, and part of that, certain books, there are certain projects where the reimagination of, and I think inside of that, I learned that not only inside of the actual arrangement of the songs, obviously there's a way to be able to retune them and calibrate them or add to the songs, but also kind of like any other situation, I believe it's how and the personalities that are going into the way that the music is being played, not just reading notes off the page, but the notes live because these particular individuals that are playing the music approach it as if it is a life urgency type of matter, not something where you're just called to do a job. And I believe that that is one of the biggest ways to be able to shape anything. I mean, that's the difference of how one person takes a jazz standard and you can have 20 different versions of the same song and love all of them for all of your different reasons and feel like they're all uniquely different. Same song though. And so I think with this, we essentially are just trying to make sure that, certain parts where it would have been an alto saxophone solo, for example, we're opening that up. Like, so it should be like, Maurice Brown coming in on trumpet over there, like, and start
Mm.
wailing from the back. And so we started opening that up. And then once you saw that happen in rehearsal, then you started seeing Yoko like lift off her feet and start dancing. And like, yeah, so it's just like, how can we surprise her inside of her own music? But obviously keeping the highest level of respect and thoroughness with the delivery of what she's created. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically that.
Can you tell me about the evolution of your music? I mean, you're grounded in jazz, but you really have created your own sound, mixing all these different genres. How did that come about?
Well, I think when I think about it now, in a broader scope, I believe that what really happened was the moment that I found improvised music, it then gave me such a inspiration and a focus with my instrument, with the alto saxophone, that it kind of made me feel as if I was, it'll sound silly, but I felt as if I was listening to or participating in or whatever other types of popular musics that I wasn't focusing hard enough on the improvised music. And so I kind of had a period, but I say this to say I found jazz or improvised music in this particular sense when I was about 13, 14, and or it found me. And but leading up to that, I grew up. I was born in 1980. I, grew up making mixtapes and things like this well before I ever wanted to be a musician or whatever. And I was listening to like Hall and Oates and like the
Mhm.
Temptations and like things like this. So Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Prince. So to be honest, that's really the music I grew up with. And then when I found Bird, it just changed. I just everything changed. And but then when I started really paying attention to myself after going through many years, and I did classical music and things like that too earlier on, and still jazz, and I continued with that. And then eventually, it just in my compositions, I realized I was writing these acoustic songs. However, I write these bass lines and this and that, and oh yeah, make this like a little funkier and put this and that beat and whatever. And so basically, I was writing like acoustic kind of R&B music in a way, because if you were to take the acoustic bass away, put electric bass, if I had the drummer say, yeah, less cymbals, just kind of more like, James Brown idea, but playing in 7/11 or whatever time signature we're playing in, then it's already was always there. And so for me, like that evolution sonically naturally led up to Blues People, the creation of that, and that being really kind of, I don't want to say it's like an alt rock kind of jazz thing, but it's like, yeah, it's like the everything. It's like, how
Yeah.
do you create this space that is everything that you are, not deny yourself? So that really is the evolution kind of that. Still in there too, still trying to figure that out.
This is a little self-indulgent, but you rattled off a bunch of different artists that you liked, including Hall and Oates and so forth. But you mentioned Prince. I'm a huge Prince fan, and I was wondering how deeply you were into Prince, or was he just one of the many artists that you listed that you liked?
Oh, man, Prince is a subject as a human being and influence that has been in my life hardcore easily since I was 5 years old. Because I'm the youngest of four children, and my two oldest brothers, who are 9 years older and 8 years older, respectively, were hardcore Prince fans. They were young teenagers at that time. So that's really what I heard between seeing, the films and things like that uh coming up. I mean, I'm really very much in love with Prince as an artist and as a genius mind and as a revolutionary as well. And was very elegant and never had any need to be apologetic about anything. So,
Uh,
yep.
I'm glad you said that because I hear that in your music, and there's so few artists who can stretch the way that he did and still have that mass pop appeal. And it seems like you're right there. You're pushing the limits, but yet the stuff that you do has a hook that makes it a little bit more accessible. And I just can't wait to see what you're going to do next. I do believe you have an album that's coming up, right? Is that true? Logan's
Yeah,
Run.
actually, yeah, Logan's Run, that one is definitely coming out, and that's going to be that's actually, it's interesting that you said that. First, I want to say thank you for that. It means a lot to hear that, and this project Logan's Run is really my, I don't even know. I would call it like an autobiography, but an audio version of that. I wrote and produced everything, recorded everything, played all the instruments, like the whole thing, and then I'm singing on it, a little bit of like rapping, some spoken word, saxophone everywhere, like flutes, everything. Like I just, it's like really that same idea that I just said to you. Like I said, what I just said, I'm still in it. That's literally the project that's really trying to say, okay, this is like every single thing that that I possibly can conjure up. Like this is what it sounds like, and really ideally, if you hear this sound, that's still the same sound that you would hear if I was playing, Stella by Starlight or Misty or something like this, coming from the jazz repertoire. So, yeah, I'm just really grateful for life and the ability to be able to continue to get another chance to try again and just always to try to, make a good decision to try big. So, yeah, very thankful for you and everybody that is taking the time to listen and to be supportive, even in ways, even if they didn't realize how much they are and were.
I admire what you do because it's so hard. Many artists get pigeonholed into doing a certain style, and it's very hard to break out of that style. But the way that you are able to be creative in your own unique way, and it seems like your fans are willing to go along with you on your journey. Like, what is the key to that? How do you keep people coming along with you, wanting to see what you do next, and embracing it?
Well, I think always to anything, and like anything, I'm certainly not preaching. If anything, I'm speaking to the choir, just being amongst the choir. But I feel as if authenticity, as much as you can be that doesn't mean that you're good or that you're bad or you're in between, but it means that you are authentic to how you feel, what you do. And, in consequence, I will say actually the inverse a little bit, not to rub against what you just said, but almost as an additive to say I've actually found the inverse to be crazy. How many people uh actually if I play acoustic music, they'll be there all day long. They love me. But if I want to play something electric in any form, see you next time you do something acoustic, literally. And they love you.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, but that won't make me stop doing any. In fact, that the rebel in me only says, "Oh, really? Okay." So something's where, hey, because love has different types of responses. So it's interesting, but yeah, no, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to just continue to just create music, just music, and try to get out of the space of having to delegate it on one side or another to make it be serious. I think it's serious for anybody who it has an effect on and who feels like they came in feeling one way that wasn't that good, and then after they listen to that, they feel completely a different way, which is way better and possibly inspired and things like that. If that works, then we just continue to do that and try to reach those folks. And I feel like other people will come along if they do. If they don't, they don't. That's fine. It's all a part of the flow, so it's okay.
Where does that rebel attitude come from that makes you want to just do what you want to do artistically?
Well, I think that it's a protecting factor, less it being kind of something where it's like, I'm going to do what I want to do. By consequence, that's what that is, certainly. But I will say that really it's just because I didn't start first, I wanted to play saxophone before I ever met jazz. And then when I met jazz, and met Charlie Parker, it was first. So it inspired me to say, wow, this guy plays the saxophone like that. This is literally what I said. I'm telling you verbatim what I thought in my mind when I heard the 4 bar break on the Massey Hall recording of A Night in Tunisia. And they play the melody, him and Dizzy Gillespie, and then the 4 bar break before they go back to the top of the solo. And he burns down these 4 bars a cappella. Then the band comes in. I was like, oh my God, it's on the floor. And I was like, okay, if that's the case, then I have to play jazz to be able to play the saxophone like that. That's literally what I thought. So it
Mm.
wasn't like, oh, I love jazz so much. Let me get a saxophone so I can play the jazz. It was the inverse. I played saxophone. I was playing like marching band music and whatever music. Mary had a little whatever. I wanted to play. That's what I was playing because And then I said, oh, so then I found Bird. I said, all right, so I got to play this bebop because he plays bebop, and it was like this. And so that's how. And I said, oh, John Coltrane and the Miles Davis. And that's how I just started finding everybody in this particular way, my own form of jazz history uh, um, and in the beginning. And yeah, I mean, I just think that there's a way to be able to stay free in your expression in this particular space. As the rebel, it acts as a protecting factor around making sure that your art can stay supple, because in this an industrial space, not only business obviously as a formidable space, and his that's why I started Logan Richardson Studios as our own agency to be able to conduct this space. Because I'm not satisfied with working with a company building out a Rolodex and then looking back and saying that you have nothing. No, I'm going to be a part of ownership and be able to spread that back out to artists, because we need to make sure that we're creating an infrastructure. So really what the freedom does as an artist and the rebel in that, it creates a solidarity and an infrastructure surrounding your art so that you don't have to worry about um, what anybody thinks, because that's not why you started. That's not why you did it. I
Hmm.
didn't do it for the critics. I didn't do it. And I'm not saying that either for interviews. I would say this to anyone. I mean, and that's also the thing that will be the slap back in the industry too, because when they get to know that you are someone that thinks and you are someone that will definitely speak directly, or not maybe, but they still know that you are, then are you an ally or are you a not an ally? And I just prefer to, I want to get along with everybody. I want to be friends with everybody, but I will never do that at the sake of bastardizing my arts or the folks that have breathed life into me to see through me in a time where I couldn't even see myself. There are a lot of people that put that fire of a torch in me. So to keep that lit, I have to maintain that. It's beyond me. So the force of understanding that I'm not here because of myself, that alone is enough for me to protect everything about what it is they saw in me. Even if I don't see the same things, or it's for other folks. And then I'll maybe hopefully figure it out one day.
Wow, powerful stuff. You're going to be playing with Yoko, and you're going to be doing a lot of film music. Are you interested in doing film music yourself in the future?
Oh yeah, and to be honest, like I've always had this idea where I was always kind of trying to write with this idea. No matter what album it was, they were always kind of cinematic scores without the visuals, in particular, in most moments. So I started kind of getting into that a bit. Just creating my own videos and putting music to that and this and that. But yeah, in general, yes, I very much, I've always had a desire to write for film and TV, and I mean, I've done a couple of little things, and I find it to be fun, challenging in its own way, depending on the project and whatnot. But yes, I definitely have an aspiration of doing that.
Well, I'm super excited to see this show, and I can't wait for this new music that's coming out. It sounds groundbreaking. When you look back at everything that you've done, you're pretty young, but you've done a lot of music through the years. What are you most proud of at this point in your life?
Wow. You know, it's kind of a stumping question a little bit. Tom, I'm not sure if I exactly know how to answer that one, to be honest. Uh, I would just have to say that, and it's really not to be non-specific, but I do believe that the entire composition of everything has really been my favorite. I wouldn't be able to choose one particular thing over another, because everything has been the reason that it's all existed, if that makes sense. So really, I've
Yeah.
just greatly appreciated. Oh wow, I mean, there's so many people that I would say and so many projects and things like that. But if it really came down to uh the core of it, the favorite thing that I have is that my mother believed me when I begged her for a saxophone out of nowhere for years. That's
Mm,
literally the one thing I can say, because the belief in the throughness that she saw in me, even if she didn't know where I was going to go with it, but she believed in me enough to be able to do that. And I think that that has to be probably the most profound moment in my life, to be honest. Like
yeah.
when I'm looking at that, because after that, that's led to my life in its entirety in many ways. All the people I know, down to just everything around me. So it's I've always said that these inanimate objects are not inanimate, they're very animated. And I never say I practice my instruments, we spend time together. And like, I don't practice my mom, I don't practice my grandmother, we spend time. So
Mm.
it's an actual relationship. So I spend time with the instruments. And I believe that transmission, I think the instruments understand that level of relationship. I do.
Well, Logan, it's really been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope we get a chance to
Same
speak
here.
again in the future. I love your music and looking forward to the show. If people want to learn more about you, is there any place you want to direct them online or on social media?
Yeah, I would just say two places. If they want to go online, just go to loganrichardsonstudios.com, studios with an S, loganrichardsonstudios.com. And then also for social medias, I pretty much hang out on Instagram if I'm there. So that's just at Logan Richardson Official. And yeah, that's it. I thank you for letting me plug.
Thank you, Logan. And
Appreciate you.